Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dynamic Character Productions. Today we have Ben here. Oh my God, Ben, we're so excited.
I'm being slandered already.
I don't know. This is a little tricky.
I can hang up if you want.
Hey,
No,
don't.
so excited to
Don't.
talk to you.
We're all loyal hosts here. We're good.
We're excited to talk to you at a normal pace, have a normal conversation, and not be. We're
being
also
bullied.
joined by
I'm being
Lilly and
bullied.
Alex. How are you doing, guys?
I'm excited for this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's go right into it. Ben, were you aware that during the game you seemed like stressed the entire time? Talk us through it. Like, let's just, get the cat out of the bag. Let's talk about it.
So for one, I was stressed the entire game, or being stressed the entire game because I was stressed the entire game. I felt like I was everyone's kind of scrambling, but I felt like I was extra scrambling there for a little bit. And then I also realized when we hit the merge and we were like doing all those challenges, and I was like, then after I got voted out, and I was like, oh, I'm like 3 Dr. Peppers deep right now. So I was highly stressed, highly caffeinated, and ready to go.
Yep.
So I feel like that came across a little bit, maybe.
Just a little bit. But hey, we'd rather someone be amped up to play than just being apathetic and existing.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think a part of it is this format of a game is very different than what you've played really in the past. So do you think that it came across a different way than what you're used to playing?
Absolutely, because when I like the games I've played before, I've played a couple of like live minis, but I've never done one on Zoom before. This is really my first like true mini. And like I've never done a Zoom game. So like things like navigating the Zoom rooms were really difficult for me at first. That first I didn't go to tribal in the pre-swap. And so when I'm going into my first tribal down in numbers and in Zoom rooms where I can't just like, pull Selkirk and Emily aside and say, like, hey, here's what's going. We got to like shuffle around until you get the configuration you want. It got a little more difficult because I was like, all right, well, one, I need to find these people. I need to get them in the right configuration. And, we're in such small tribes that even 1 or 2 people kind of outside of what's going on, that can be really devastating to a game. If you've got like, 5 people and 2 versus 3 is everything.
Yeah, my favorite thing to describe Ben is how can he tell a 3-minute story in 3 seconds when he's in confessionals?
That actually goes all the way back to OG Kirka. When we were in the first round trying to get to know each other, we were finding all of these like commonalities that all of us had, and we were trying to build like this, like, hey, we are all going to survive. We're all going to get to the merge, and we are going to stay 5 strong, and it's going to be fantastic. But we all kept getting all 5 of us together, having a good confessional, or having a good conversation. And then somebody would get pulled for confessional like 10 seconds after the next person gets back. And so we were like, all right, when somebody gets back, we're just going to blurt out everything in 10 seconds, and then we are going to go. So there's a lot of like, someone gets back, we have like a really fast 15-second conversation, and then somebody else gets pulled, and then we kind of slow down for a little bit. So I feel like, part of that was like, oh, everybody is doing this. And then it was like, no, it turns out they're not.
Well, let's talk about that original tribe very briefly, because again, like you said, you didn't really go to tribals there, so you weren't able to really see a lot of gameplay. But we see in the early episodes that you're really pretty much in good standing with everybody on the tribe. We even see you say you want to be close with Vee. Vee's like, I love Ben, and then we just never see like the one-on-one connection. So how do you think that, and then going right into a tribe swap, kind of affected your long-term game?
It was really interesting because we were all kind of kumbaya on OG Kirk. All of us were really good. I know that there was that talk about like, oh, are we going to vote out probably Selkirk or Lee? Because I feel like me, Lydia, and Vee would have been kind of like the majority 3 on that tribe. But really, if we didn't need to vote out anybody, we wouldn't have. When I went into the swap tribe with Selkirk and Lee, I was like, not my ideal 3, honestly, but I'm not going to flip on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so going into that, I felt really good with the initial tribe where it was me, Selkirk, Lee, John, Austin, Emily, because I was like, it's three of us. I would probably have filled a similar role to Luke, where like we're going to rocks for each other, because that's basically what we all said in the pre-merge, where we were like, we're going to stick together. Like if we can just brute force this with numbers, that's something that's good, because we're decent at challenges, or supposedly.
I mean, you are Luke in a different font.
I was thank you for saying that. I was like, is that you just admitting it then?
That's I feel like Lex, Luke, and I kind of play similarly. Like I can kind of see that. Like we're all at like different spots, but I feel like if you kind of like pick one of us up and drop him into another person's situation, there's similar gameplay going on. But so I was really excited when I saw that swap tribe, because I was like, oh my gosh, there's three of us. This is going to be okay. Like we're half the tribe. And then the kidnapping happens. And at that point, I'm like, I'm DOA. Because the way that I had viewed it is that, when I was talking about, whether we're voting out Lee or Selkirk on that Kirka tribe, I was like, all right, Lee is a good at challenges, but Selkirk, I think, is less likely to be able to like muster a resistance. And I was looking at them and I was like, okay, they're having those same thoughts about Selkirk versus me. And so when we lose that challenge, Lee is gone. I'm like, all right, Selkirk and I bomb the challenge, because I decided to do the clicking and dragging rocks while having a trackpad, because not thinking too hard there. But I was like, what do I need to do? So I need to kind of play two games at once. One was try and pull in Emily over, because it was Selkirk and me versus John and Austin with Emily in the middle. And I was like, I need to play two games. I need to, one, be trying to pull Emily over with Selkirk and I, but also at the same time, I need to be throwing Selkirk under the bus.
I do have a question with that though. It's because like obviously you get through those two swap rounds. You get unscathed. Obviously, one of the rounds you're immune and they can't vote for you. But you go into this merge and like you're trying to figure out who it is that you can trust. And then one of the names that keeps running through it all is Emily. Like, what was it about Emily that you were just like, whether or not it was like through convenience or just like, okay, we're both just in a weird spot where I have to trust her even though I don't trust her fully. Like, what was going through your headspace of why you were thinking she could be a number?
One of those things was one out of necessity. Emily was kind of in the middle of that swap tribe. She was positioned really, really well. And I think the other swap tribe did a really good job at positioning her like that by not kidnapping her. They put her in a really, really excellent situation where she was basically going to be fed all of the information on both sides and make a decision from there. So my thing is that, no matter how we vote, I need to make sure that like personal relationship with Emily is there. And I felt like I was doing okay with that. But when we hit the merge, it was kind of like everything opened up a little bit, and it was Vee, Lydia, and I that were very clearly on the bottom because we were both on the outs of our swap tribes. And I was like, all right, Emily is the person that I probably have the closest personal relationship with. I am going to be most likely able to pull her in. And so that's why I was trying to include her in all of the game talk, because I'm like, if I can pull her in and we can turn the 3 into a 4, it'll be easier to get a 5 on board. And then we can try and get some stuff going from there. I knew that she was working with John. I did not know that they were that close. John and Emily did a fantastic job at masking that relationship throughout the entire game. And, when I throw out John's name at the final 9, I throw it out to Emily, not realizing that they're that close.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was, for lack of a better word, tricky.
It absolutely was.
And that leads to, I've asked, I think at this point, a couple people this question in exits is, what magic sauce does Emily have? Because really at the swap, both sides could have come and been like, let's just work together, get Emily out, and then maybe we win and we don't have to duke it out. Why that never seems, her being voted out is never an option. It appeared in that vote. Why was that?
It never was an option because we both knew the way that it was going to go is that, we have that 2-2-1 split. And then after the first vote, we're getting both Lee and Sarah, which are the original Kirka and Tugela as well. So it's going to turn into a 3-3-1 total plus whoever gets voted out. And we're like, all right, well, we could vote Emily out, but then it turns into effectively a 3 and a 3. And that would basically revolve around us wanting to flip on Lee or them wanting to flip on Sarah. And frankly, I wasn't super willing to do that. Jon didn't seem super willing to do that. It was frankly much more likely that we were going to fight over Emily. That was kind of the path of least and most resistance. There was really, I don't think, in any world where we kind of coalesced to vote out Emily there. Because I mean, one, Jon has that connection with Emily, and Emily and I are also both from Michigan. So while the Seattle alliance was going on and that made all the Emily and I, like, at least in theory, had some sort of like Michigan alliance going on. I was like, yo, super down to work with you. And she was like, yo, super down to work with you. I think she was probably playing me the entire time because we really never voted together. But, I was like, when I give people promises that I won't write their name down or that I'm loyal to them, like that's what I do.
Yeah.
And so Emily was never an option throughout the swap, just because one, it was kind of out of necessity, because why would we vote out the person in the middle rather than just pull them in?
Mm-hmm.
I got another follow-up to that also, because there's something very interesting with your strategy, like how you were playing the game. Like, you are a loyal player, like through and through. That's what you were doing your best attempt to, unless your back was against the wall, then you would try to figure something out.
Yeah.
Something that you were doing in the game that I don't see a lot of people do, at least in our games, are these like short-term deals.
Yeah.
You got into that swap and you didn't say like, oh, I will never put your name down. You're like, I won't put your name down until we hit merge. What was the logic behind that? Because I think it was a good strategy. Like, in theory, in a different circumstance, that opens up where people be like, okay, he was a man of his word. He went through 2 rounds, didn't put my name down. Maybe there's something more that can happen. Like, what was your thought process through it?
Realism. If I walk up to Jon and Emily and I say, I will never put your name down, they go, okay, cool. Do we expect him to keep this? No, we do not. Mm-hmm. But if I basically say, listen, like, while we're on this tribe, while we're having these dynamics, I don't plan on writing your name down. Like, we're going to be on opposite sides, most likely. Let's build that personal relationship and probably reconnect. Jon and I think, kind of had this agreement vibe between us that he articulates pretty well in, I think, round 4, where we're like, listen, even if we're not voting together, like, there's some mutual respect here. We're going to kind of keep off of each other, that sort of stuff. And part of that stems from basically saying, like, listen, this is the situation we're in. I'm not going to write your name down. Please don't write my name down. Let's just chill for a little bit, have a bit of a détente. And so I feel like that worked, because if I walk up to Jon and I say, listen, I'm never writing your name down off of the bat, as like our first interaction, why does he have a reason to trust that?
Right.
Smart play.
Yeah.
I think it absolutely saved me round 3. I think I'm in 13th place if I don't do that.
I think you're right on the money, because like what we've seen from Jon as a player is like, it's very transaction work with him. Mm-hmm. Like, he was like, I'm willing to vote out Sarah if she doesn't tell me anything, and I'll keep Lee. Sarah tells him, and that just like really pushes him over the edge to keep Sarah. So, okay, there's trust there. You give a pitch. Selkirk is more so just thinking about the round and not further ahead. That saves you ultimately.
Jon and I think, play very similarly that way, where we are like, you give me information, I give you information. And that's why I was really hesitant to work with Jon and Austin, because, I was giving them information as much as possible. I was saying, like, hey, I will not write your name down. And then they go like, okay, thanks, without like saying it back. And I'm like, now say it back. And then it doesn't happen. And so I'm like, okay, they know I'm not coming for them, but like they will come for me at some point. So that's why I was gunning so hard, frankly, for that immunity in round 4, because I was like, all right, I stand no chance.
Yeah. Which I mean is also information in itself. Is like
it is. But if it's also the information is, oh, you're going home if you don't win.
It's not helpful.
I tried.
You also win at the merge vote. And it seems like a big theme for you really is that even though you are safe, you are still worried and still scrambling for the future round. And we hear you say that you haven't voted correctly up until the Luke vote, and this seemed really important to you. Why?
So the way that I play games is that I try to set myself up for longevity. This is the first game that I've played where I've really had my back against the wall for so long. In games previously where I've like survived votes, it's because, you know, I've built an alliance, not even like built, but sometimes I've been like in an alliance and they've said, oh, Ben, your name is out there. We've got your back. But I didn't have that this round. And so it was really interesting because I'm like, I need to be able to vote correctly to be like, listen, it's not, you know, Ben fighting to survive. It's like Ben with allies. And that's why I was like so in on like promising people that like, hey, Final Four, Final Six. Because I was like, listen, I truly mean this. I have nowhere to go. And, you know, I feel like the theme of that was also like, okay, now say it back. And then nobody did.
No, that was going to be my follow-up question is we see that kind of, we're in a room and, you know, there's like 5 of you and you're like, if we could get so-and-so, I think it was Vee, you're like, let's make this a Final Six. And it's like crickets, you know, like, what do you do there?
Yeah. That was, I think, the thing that really plagued my game is that I was giving a lot of information, but I was not necessarily getting a lot of information. And that's the thing that I think really hurt me, because when I am basically like, I know that I'm getting a lot of votes the round I go home, I'm like, I need to swing for the fences. And I was like, all right, I just need to put somebody out there in front of me. And I was like, who's the best positioned person in the game to go very far? And I was like, it's Jon. Jon and I have that kind of detente relationship going on, but we're not working together.
Yeah.
He's got an army. I have, you know, Lydia and Vee, and we're just like hanging out at the bottom, but it's like, what are we going to do?
Yeah. Well, speaking of Vee, I thought it was interesting. Like, scrambling is hard because you kind of have to read the room, also be tracking what's going on in other rooms, and still have a little bit of wit about you. And so we see in the merge, you finally are able to reconnect with, I think it's Vee, Lydia. I don't know if there's somebody else in the room.
No,
and and Vee is excited to talk to you. She's like, Ben, and you're like, okay, bye. Do you? But we see that Vee really wants to work with you, and I don't know. I think it's amazing to see that even though you guys weren't able to really work together, that you really stood by each other's side. So I just thought it was interesting and wanted to, I don't know, talk about that relationship and Lydia as well.
You know, I feel like the three of us just kind of like we clicked. We were like, all right, this is good. We are going to take that as far as we can go, because I feel like it was just kind of, one, we were all at the bottom of our swap tribes and we were at the bottom of the merge tribe. 2, we never had to turn on each other, so why start now? And also just, I feel like we balanced out each other quite well. The 2 of them are a little more quieter, and I feel like they kind of balanced me out a bit when I was a little like hectic. They kind of like brought me down a little bit. So 10 out of 10 allies would align with. Happy they didn't vote me out.
You know what? And you guys adorably called yourselves the Brain Tribe. For your bonding. I do want to know if this season was a Brain versus Brawn versus Beauty tribe or format, what would the other 2 tribes have been?
Oh,
in your mind.
Let me see. So we had Jon, Austin, Sarah, and Lex.
Andrew, don't forget Andrew.
And Andrew. I know. I was thinking like who was there at that point? Andrew was there, and then no, because I was thinking like
Oh, at the merge.
Yeah. So there were those 4. I feel like they've got to be the Braun tribe.
It's all because of Andrew. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, everyone is beautiful. They're all beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, part of why Emily sides with Jon, she says, because he's pretty. So I don't know what you do there. When we were talking in the tribe chat right after the game ended, I think we were joking around that the 3 tribes were Gatekeep, Girl Boss, and Gaslight.
Love that.
Well, Tuchel is definitely the gaslight.
Yeah.
Yes, they're the Gaslight tribe. Yeah, I feel like Kirk is the Girl Boss tribe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's so funny though, like how, because like when we make these tribes out, like there's no knowing how well everyone will interact, but we do our best to try to like even it out. But you guys, for overall, Kirka as opposed to Guazoo and Tugela, just had like this bond. It was and a bond that was made like so quickly, that is very rare to see in a mini format. Where it's almost as if you were playing a long game and you guys just spent the first 13 days together and you just hit the merge, and it was like we're not going against each other. Do you think that vibe sort of like came across as well? Like, we know part of the reason why you guys were getting targeted was you guys didn't go to tribal, but do you think that like sort of like energy of just like, yeah, the vibe that you were giving out in challenges or whatnot, like people were like, oh, we're not going to be able to break into that, so we have to break it apart?
I don't even think so, because people kept pitching Vee and Lydia to me the entire time. But no, definitely what bonded us was that first challenge. We were joking that we trauma bonded because we were like, all right, we're going to tribal early. We're going to go first. What are we going to do? And then like during the footage of that, you'll catch like Vee and I like talking back and forth. Like I'll say something just out loud. She'll respond. I'll talk out loud. Lydia will respond. And that's kind of how we kind of figured out the dynamics. But then we got back after winning. We were like, then we were like, all right, never again. We're sticking strong. We're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Delicious.
Delicious. Trademarked.
Well, I do have a what if. What
Okay.
if you had been switched with Lydia? You were in V spot on the merge, or not merge, the tribe swap.
Tribe.
So it was Jonathan, Lo, Luke, Lex, and then you and Lydia. And Lydia pulls that idol out. She never told you. Does that change how you play with her moving forward, or is it even more like how V reacts, like girl boss, love it, like not hurt at all, thinking you might have gone home?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I would have loved that because, results oriented, we would have both stayed.
He would have also asterisk voted correctly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the other players may have not even have known. Like, so like when it comes out, it's even more of a shock because no one's thinking about the idol at that point. Like they think someone could have something, but there's no evidence to support it until V says, oh, I have this thing that I'm going to say at tribal. It creates more of a guessing game there for you and Lydia.
Realistically, likely what happens is that I don't tell anybody about the idol clue. So the votes, if the votes were on V instead or whatever, because you see, I had that idol clue. I didn't tell anybody but Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And it's potentially like I find that idol, play it on myself. Or I find it, the votes are on Lydia, I play it on myself and Lydia goes home. But like I would have hopefully found that idol, but I'm never gonna be mad at somebody for playing an idol correctly. And I'm still there, they're still there, fine, cool, love it, sweet.
Let's go.
I do got I do got a two-parter here for that idol though. Because we've talked about it, but I just want confirmation for people that are viewing it, maybe people that are covering it. Why is it that you didn't go for the idol?
I did not go for the idol. So 2 parts. One, the clue, at least from my memory, I don't have access to the actual thing, but I think it mentioned an idol or there is an idol at tribal or something like that. I didn't get the vibe that there two. And because we won the challenge and we got to watch the other tribes tribal, I see Lydia get the idol with the same phrase that I have. And so I'm just thinking, okay, this is gone. I have two things I can do. One, I'm still at that point. Lee still has an idol. Lee's going to save himself. It's fine. There'll be four of us, or it'll be cool at the merge. Lee is lying about having an idol and goes home. But also, I'm thinking the idol's not there. And I'm like, if I say this phrase and the idol's not there, I say the same phrase that Lydia says before she gets an idol in front of my entire tribe who's not working with me. And now I'm a giant threat at the merge.
Yeah. So our thought process was, because you guys got to watch that tribal council, unknowing that Lydia was going to play it that tribal, but like you'd watch it, you'd hear Lydia say the phrase, and then it's the advantage of going to watching that tribal council.
Yeah.
So then Lydia has the idol.
Yeah. I mean, if I knew that there was two, I would have done it.
Right. And it's hard to do the terminology because we're not going to have different. I guess the only thing we could have said was like had two different notes of like, here's the clue to your Kirka idol and your Iguazu idol.
Yeah.
So then even if the same phrase was said, you would be like, but they can't get it because mine's Iguazu. Yeah. But second part of this question now is, okay, we know now past all this, like in hindsight, a lot of people, it went over their head, the phrase that Lydia said in order to get the idol. They don't know how she got it, or what phrase it was. So there's a world here where you're vulnerable the round you go out, and what if you tried to do a more successful hijinks than Lee did, where you have all the information? You can just like very easily, because people are tired, people are not gonna think straight. You could say, oh, I also said the phrase, I'm playing it tonight, whether it's at tribal or throughout the scramble rounds, because we already have seen one time Emily has freaked out last minute and decided to go random to avoid getting hit or avoid rocks in the event that an idol's played. Do you think that was anything that could have possibly worked in your and the rest of Kirka's favor there?
Probably not. The reason why is because at that time, I have no knowledge of Sarah's idol nullifier. I can bluff an idol. I can have a real idol. I could have found that merge idol, not played it on Lee, kept it for myself, and said, I'm going to just play it on myself at Final 9. Cool. If Sarah hears me get that idol, I'm sure the other people have the idol clue. If they hear the hourglass phrase, Sarah knows Ben has an idol. If they put the votes on me, and I'm very vocal, I'm like, I know that I'm getting votes this round. If Sarah knows, Ben knows he's getting votes, Ben has an idol, Sarah nullifies that idol. I go out anyway. I think there's no way that I get an idol or bluff an idol and manage to switch that, because enough of the opposing side knows that Sarah has an idol nullifier that they'll just say, okay, cool, we'll just do it again. Sarah play the idol nullifier, Ben's going out anyways.
I totally forgot about her nullifier at this point, to be honest. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, and so I know I saw it in a comment somewhere, but I just want to hear your reasoning of, if we had not said, oh, I have an idol, if he had been like, if we had an idol, this is when we need it and we need to use it on me. And let's say you knew there were two idols, you went and got one at that tribal, would you have used it on Lee, and why?
So there's a couple of what ifs there.
There's a lot, yeah.
One is, if Lee was more upfront with me and said, listen, I need to bluff having an idol, you need to tell people that Lee told you he has an idol, so we need to find an alternate plan, I would have been down for that. That would have been great. That honestly arguably would have been better for my game, because they might have said, oh, we're nullifying the idol anyways, it's fine. Sarah might have played the idol nullifier on him there, would have been cool. If I have the idol, there's a couple of things that I'm thinking of. One, is it going to work? If I ever know Sarah has the idol nullifier, I do not play it. I figure out when Lee does, right before we go to vote, the, hey, yeah, I've got an idol, don't vote for me, da 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 da. My entire voting confessional that round is, oh my God, you don't say that unless you're lying. Lee is lying about having an idol. Lee's going home. Austin's not going to go home. Who do I vote for now? I'm not going to vote for Lee because that's my word. And what if somebody else flips their vote? So I basically vote for Austin because I've been locked into this. And it kind of, I think, tanks my game moving forward because I'm like, I need to vote incorrectly because it's another thing where it's like, I need to vote this way because what if Emily votes with us?
So there's another hypothetical in there. So say you do get the idol, you can technically give Lee your immunity necklace. Thus, the idol nullifier, like she wouldn't play it on Lee because you can't nullify an immunity necklace. And then
I go home in all situations there.
You play the idol though.
Then
I don't think Sarah would have thought to play the nullifier on you because like Lee has the idol.
But I mean, I would need to give him the necklace before the votes get cast, in which case all the votes go on to me, and there's no situation where they do that. But this is also me needing to say the hourglass phrase at that exact tribal.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's another situation.
There's a
lot of hypotheticals with that one tribal.
Yeah, I love a good what if, so I could do this.
In that case, I don't know about the nullifier. It is not impacting my decision making at all. All my thing is that if I have the idol and Lee pulls the shenanigans that he did, I do not play it on him. If he's straight up with me, I do play it on him, and he still probably goes home because Sarah nullifies the idol.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I feel like that round goes the way that it went, no matter what. Yeah.
Well, and to skip forward to your eventual vote out, the challenge before is what is it called? The coconut. I just call it the coconut challenge.
But it's like
coconut chop. Okay, Lifeline, which is a very hard social game. You talk about it in your confessional. What was your strategy going into that game? Yeah, what was your strategy going into that game?
So my strategy was, I just need to win.
Nice. All
as
right.
As soon as I saw that it was a social challenge, I was like, oh boy, I am not winning this. I was like, I just need to be perfect with all the things. So the thing that I was focusing on first was, I need to get all 3 ping pong balls into the cup so people can't vote for me. So I was like, in order to win that immunity challenge, I needed to win like probably 6 or 7 mini immunity challenges in a row. But it did not happen. So we get to the first one where I sink 3 ping pong balls. I'm immune. And then McKenna goes, Ben, vote. And I'm like, didn't think this far. You know that meme where it's like, I don't know. I didn't think I'd get this far.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know. I'll vote for Emily because we're working together and she won't hold it against me. And then I was like, I don't know, Austin, Jon, or Sarah. I didn't vote for Austin again because I didn't want to be like, what's this dude's obsession with Austin?
I mean, there's a world where you throw 3 on Austin right there, and you could have gotten Austin out.
There is a world
a lot quicker.
There is a world where I throw 3 on Austin there, and that is probably the optimal play because whatever. But also, I don't want people to be like, oh my gosh, we need to protect Austin and get Ben out immediately. And I feel like that's a decent response. So I was like, Sarah. And Sarah and I had one of those relationships as well that I had with Jon and Austin. We're like, personally, we're cool with each other. In a different world, we're very close allies. But in Emily's words, not in this world.
Yeah, because we see in a confessional later on, Sarah is like, why the heck did Ben choose me? Like, why would you do that? And that kind of seems like why she eventually can be talked into voting for you, because he screwed me over in the challenge, so.
Yeah. Sarah, I think in no world votes Jon out that round. And I don't think that there's anywhere that I don't think that there's any name that I can put out as opposed to mine that gathers enough votes that way.
I think you get Sarah's if you throw out low, but you get nobody else.
Yes. And so we get 4 because Emily and the rest of Tugela does not vote out low there.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting there because, the first thing I did that scramble round is I go to Sarah and I'm like, listen, I straight up panicked. You were the first name I saw and I am so sorry. And then I was like, I put 2 on you the first time and I was like, I need to just like do this and repair the relationship later. I'm sorry. And she was like, oh, Ben's over strategizing. I'm like, no, I literally just panicked because I didn't think that. Like, I will do strategic things. Like I have a reason why I do a lot of stuff. That was not one. I was just like, eek. I also
Well,
thought, I didn't realize
Go
that I was
ahead.
like going second or third in terms of like allocating my chops. And so I was like, when you called my name, I was like, oh, this is now. I was like in the middle of thinking, and I was like, oh no, I haven't come up with a plan. My first thought was like, what if I had put one on Austin, John, Sarah? And then I was like, no, then they all hate me anyways. So I mean, maybe that's the world, and I try and say like, one for each of the trio, and then like Austin, John, Sarah, and that gets people thinking for the rest of the round, like, oh, these three are a trio. We can go from there. I feel like that's maybe the optimal play because we're not working together anyways, but I don't think it significantly changes the outcome.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, we talked about it a little bit in this exit interview, that Jon really has built an army, behind him to protect him. But still, you kind of throw out Jon's name along with Vee. Did you ever consider going after Sarah, especially now with the hindsight? Do you think it would have worked, knowing how not attached Jon really was to Sarah? He was willing to give up somebody eventually.
Emily also wasn't attached to Sarah either.
The thing is that Sarah, like, I love Sarah. Watching Sarah is one of my favorite characters right now because she's like, I'm doing this. And that's what we were doing basically in real time. Because I love Sarah. I think that even if, Emily flips on her and then it's Emily, me, Lydia, and Vee, I don't think Lo votes out Sarah. I really don't think Jon or Austin votes out Sarah, and I don't think Lex votes out Sarah. I think that there's no way that I get any of the four Tugalas, to flip on each other that round. And so I was like, I'm just going to throw out what I view as the head of the snake. I need to put a bigger target in front of myself, which is why I spent that entire round going like, Austin, Jon, and Sarah are a trio. Austin and Jon are a duo. Jon is going to win if we don't take him out now. And I'm just like, I need to throw something against the wall. And I was like, I don't think anybody else gets votes. I can't vote Austin. I think Sarah and Lo have enough goodwill with everybody else that not enough people flip on them. I'm theoretically working with Emily. I'm actually working with Lydia and Vee. And Jon is just kind of who remains.
Well, and what about Lex? Do you think you could have gotten votes behind Lex?
Theoretically, but also Lex was kind of in that first initial scramble room at the Luke vote.
And I don't know if Vee or Lydia vote out Lex here either, because they're like, we wanted to save him from the Jonathan boot.
Yeah. I feel like the only way that I survive that round is after the vote. If I know Lydia has an idol. 2, if I ask her to play it on me.
Yeah.
And she maybe does. I still think she probably doesn't. But that's, I think, the only way I survive that round. I think that there was a lot of stuff in the build up to that round that I necessarily during that round could not have saved myself.
Because a lot of the points that you make about Jon are good, and I think people are listening. We don't know if it'll catch up to them, but during the round, were you thinking like, if only I'd said this at the Luke vote, maybe by now with Austin winning, it might have been like, oh, remember what Ben said to look forward to? Do you think that would have helped, or really, unless you won, you were still out no matter what?
I think I was still pretty much out. I needed to take a shot while I was immune. That was kind of why I'm scrambling so hard, even while I'm immune, because I'm like, okay, cool. If I don't use this time to do something to set myself up longer term, what's this good for? I've prolonged to the inevitable. And you see, I come kind of closer, but it's not enough to tip it over the edge. And I don't think that I had enough necessarily like rounds. I go into the merge with Lydia and Vee as, people that I am aligned with, but I haven't worked with. I don't know the dynamics. And then everybody else on my tribe wants me out. I feel like if I lose that merge challenge, I'm the merge boot.
I still think Luke goes, but I think your name comes up a lot more at that vote.
Yeah.
I do agree. You're still in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my last question before Facebook, or if either of these two lovely people have one, is if you could play another Survivor game, albeit in real life, in org, with anybody from this cast again, who would you choose and why?
Honestly, there's so many people. This cast is so good.
It is a very good cast.
One, I want to actually play with Lee and Vidya.
Lee and Vidya.
The NVIDIA.
You know the ones, honestly.
We ship it. Hashtag Vidya.
Yes. Honestly, I want to actually play with Vee and Lydia. I think, honestly, Austin and I would be a really good duo.
Yes, let's go.
You know, we're both like very strategic. I feel like if we were working together, we would have been able to keep it like very on the down low. Austin and I like have talked a lot after the season, and we were like, you know, we're like decent buds now. And it's, you know, we kind of like balance each other out decently in the same way that, like, you know, Vee and Lydia.
Wow, you're just
it's just because he has to put Lee in. He can't go on a Zoom without talking about Lee.
Listen, I would also play with Lee. Give me the whole Kirka tribe again. Justice for Selkirk.
I love
Honestly,
it. Yeah.
Honestly, I'd play with everybody. I still think I might have a little bit of trouble trusting Emily in the future, but
I think she does that. Yeah.
Alrighty, so our first Facebook question is Jay Milligan. This is not allowed. Ben, you're such a delight and amazing player. I enjoyed watching you play so much. I hope to see you making rounds within the Facebook org community. Maybe we will even meet up in a game. My question for you is, what do you think you could have done to manage your strategic threat level?
So there were a lot of things I think said about like my strategy that, you know, I didn't necessarily get to act on. My entire game was self-preservation.
Maybe that third Dr. Pepper, just don't do it.
You know, I mean, honestly, I feel like if I like toned it down a little bit, I was like, you know, because I mean, honestly, I was very excited to play this game. So I was already like super jazzed. I like woke up early that day, like went for a nice brisk walk, and then it was like good to go. But you know, I feel like a lot of that's kind of like personality wise. I don't think that there was necessarily a huge strategic threat level going on, because like, I mean, decently, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, but my strategic move was I'm going to try and build an alliance, which didn't work out. And then I'm going to throw Jon under the bus, which didn't work out.
I think it's more the perception of it. Like, perception is everything. And like, you're the one who's being the active player, and you're the one who's saying, we can be a 3, we can be a 4, we can be a 6. Like that I think is strategy. That
I think is the biggest mistake that I made, is that I was trying to be too active of a player rather than just listen. And you know, a lot of that was, I think, at the merge, where I was like, hey, this is the 6, this is the 4. I feel like if I lay low at the merge in the round that I'm immune, my name cannot come up. And, you know, maybe somebody else suggests an alliance and I get pulled into that and it works. Like, you know, if it's Lex and Low at that point, they're basically a duo. And then, you know, me, Lydia, and Vee, that's 5. That's basically a majority. That could be a decent thing right there. But I feel like because I came out kind of guns blazing.
Yeah, makes sense.
It kind of goes like, let's a little bit.
Right. Like if you were ever to come back on here again, I wouldn't say like go from one extreme to the other. I think it's definitely like knowing the places to be that forward player and then like bringing it back the next round. Because I think that's something you can get away with more in a mini than like a long game. A long game, you have to sort of, once you start a pace, you sort of have to maintain that pace, or then that's when people start looking at you like, you were talking to me every single day, why are you talking to me now? Like type of thing.
What I really think happened that kind of tanked my ability to be in different alliances and work up those personal relationships with the different people is that because I was always the first person to say something, not how I said it. I was like, hey, I like you. Let's work together. Let's do this thing. Here is where I'm at. The way I play games is like being honest, telling people where I'm at and making a solid pitch and going from there. That makes me easier to play around than to play with. And so that's something where like, yeah, I'll work on that.
Yeah.
So that's something where I'm like, okay, learning a lesson moving forward. Because if I'm the first person to throw out a name, people go, all right, let's not do that, but let's do this instead. And because Ben's going this way, let's not include it.
Mm-hmm.
So that reflecting, that is like, that's what I did.
They also want to know what your favorite type of coffee is.
I don't drink coffee.
You don't need it.
Dr. Pepper.
I'm still being bullied.
McKenna Inglis says, Ben, I adore you. I want to know what's your go-to ice cream at the MSU dairy store and what's your favorite Quinn song?
Okay. So very Michigan questions. Love it. My real Michigan Alliance. So the MSU dairy store has something called the Sesquicentennial Swirl, which is a birthday cake flavored thing because it was for their 100th or 200th, I think 100, maybe 100, 150th anniversary. And so they made like a birthday cake flavor that's really good. They also have, I think, like Buckeye Blitz, which is like peanut butter flavored, which is really good. Favorite Quinn song. This is Quinn 92. Look him up. Good stuff. Is probably Flare Guns.
All right.
Yeah.
Victoria Fung says, I enjoyed watching you and you were one of my winner picks. Knowing the results, would you have considered completely throwing the challenge by landing 0 balls?
Hi, Victoria. Thank you for roasting me bi-weekly. Love it. Sorry I didn't win. Also, in no world do I throw that challenge. I don't think that I have the luxury that Jon did there of being able to be like, I'm going to tone down my threat level, where I'm like, I'm like, my back was against the wall. I think I had to win those 2 immunity challenges. At the least, I had to win the one. But I feel like the moment I throw a challenge, people go, look at that guy we haven't been able to vote out before. And if I throw the challenge, people go, he's obviously throwing the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you just got to do it like Jon.
And like I would have asked him a question at Tribal anyway about it.
All right, so we have a question from Carrie Underwood. Ben, my love, when I visited MSU, I also went to Crunchies and got a Long Island. In Tennessee, we call them LITs. What did you normally get from Crunchies, and did you have a go-to karaoke song?
All right. So for those that don't know, Crunchies and MSU is the karaoke bar. East Lansing has a nice little bar scene. I was not incredibly picky. A lot of times I would just get like, a Blue Moon, something like that. Mm-hmm. I do love the Long Islands. There's a good Long Island selection, but when you go drinking in East Lansing, it's more about the destination than the journey. So my go-to karaoke song is Landslide by Fleetwood Mac.
All right.
Oh, that's a good one.
I like it.
Our next question is Stephen Bays. Ben, you have to choose one to fight. Ben Kenobi or Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd president of the United States. But in all seriousness, let's answer that question first and then go into his other ones.
Okay, so I have a couple of ground rules first.
All right.
Does President Benjamin Harrison have access to the Secret Service?
I mean, he's the president, so yes.
Okay, so
but it's the Secret Service at that time.
Okay. And is it like Benjamin Harrison, like old man, while he's the president, before he's
president? When he's the president.
So when he's the president.
Yeah, in his
so he's
prime.
still old. Yeah, he's still old.
He's still old.
Okay. I feel like I still probably go with President Benjamin Harrison to fight because the other one has a laser sword.
Very true.
Also, President Benjamin Harrison from Indianapolis.
Oh. But in all seriousness, who is in your mind part of your alliance? From what I saw, it seemed like everyone was in your alliance or part of your final four.
Everybody seemed to think I was aligned with everybody, but really I was kind of aligned with nobody. I mean, I had Lydia and Vee and then nobody. I thought I had Emily. And then other than that, I was like, I have literally nobody. So when Emily's like, Ben's making deals with everybody, I was like, Ben is not.
Ben is not, yeah.
Ben is not. But then, Lydia and Vee were my alliance at the merge 100%. Other than that, I was like, I need to find allies. And I was so blind to the relationships that everybody else had because of what we've discussed already. Yeah. I was like hoping for an alliance with everybody, really being Lydia. So besties for life.
Well, your number one bestie, Austin, wants to know, Ben, my arch enemy turned best friend, which round do you think had the biggest impact on your game and why?
Round 3, 100%. In the pre-merge where Selkirk goes home. If we win that challenge and Lee does not get kidnapped, we probably vote out one of Austin or Jon. And then we retain a majority at that point, assuming that everything kind of plays out the same. If we win the challenge in round 3, maybe Lydia or Vee goes home on the other side. Mm-hmm. But we could maybe like kidnap somebody. We still probably kidnap somebody from OG Tugela. So we kidnap somebody from the OG Pink tribe, give them kind of that 2-2-1 split with Lex in the middle. I like to think maybe Lex sides with Vee and Lydia there, and they survive. And there's a world where all 5 Kirkas make the merge. But round 3 really played the biggest impact because I kind of gotten to myself that like backed against the corner mentality. Because I was like, all right, I need to throw Selkirk under the bus. I'm in self-preservation mode. Lee is gone. And I was like, oh my gosh, Selkirk's not working with me. And I kind of needed to set up that like arm's length relationship with Jon Austin. Mm-hmm. And then that's kind of because Emily and I were talking back and forth because we kind of had to, because she was in the swing position, that's what kind of got that relationship closer. I feel like if Lee, Selkirk, and I are there, we are more able to effectively communicate between the 3 of us. Selkirk may vote with us in that case. And then maybe Emily sides with us and we have that relationship. Or Emily still thinks Jon is pretty and sends it to rocks. Honestly, that is probably the most likely situation. So, maybe I get rocked out, but
well, it's funny because I feel like a lot of people looking back on this will say the final 13 vote is the big like pivot point, that or the final 12, final 11 votes. Yeah. I feel like in a world where like, because we gave the scenario with Lee where Emily does get taken instead of Lee, like Luke gets his way of like just let Emily survive a round and then throw her back in. I know Lee's agenda would have been get out Jon, and I think ultimately for you as well, the pivotal move there is to remove Jon instead of voting for your favorite Austin.
Absolutely.
Because then Emily no longer has that attachment. Emily will still be Emily, like playing how she wants to play, but she no longer has Jon as that like beacon to move towards. She doesn't have that same relationship with Austin or Sarah at that point. So there's more room for you guys to maneuver at the final 12, final 11 vote.
Absolutely. I feel like that's really spot on. The reason I make that kind of short-term deal with Jon is because I saw him first.
Right.
And then that kind of locks me into voting for Austin, and that's kind of how we go from there. If Lee is in that vote, Lee might be able to say, Emily, Jon, we all kind of know each other, whatever. We need to get Jon out we need to get like Jon out to kneecap Emily, that sort of stuff. Lee in the next round never tells me about this relationship with Jon and Emily. I don't know that. I saw that conversation. I heard about that conversation between the 3 of them for the first time watching the episode. So I didn't know that was happening. That would have been incredibly useful information.
And the hard part there is it's like similar to like Lee was planning to potentially blow up their spots leaving the game, but ultimately decides not to because he's like, that's not the president I would want if I sent one of them out just for them to blow up. Like, let the cards play how they play, essentially.
Well, I mean, instead of blowing up their game, he blew up mine.
Well,
so, what the hell?
It's a give and take. Our next comment here is from Greg. We had already answered his question about the idol from the Lee boot. So he says, Ben, it was really fun watching you play. You were a very vocal, strategic player with mild to medium chaotic energy.
Accurate.
And then our last question is from Kylie Scruggs. Ben, you are absolutely, in my opinion, the second cutest person to ever play DCP game, second to only King Brett Obvi. 2 questions. In your opinion, who is the cutest person to ever play Survivor?
Cutest person to play Survivor. Oh gosh.
A lot of people to think about.
So many.
About like 600.
Let me just run through all 600 in my head real quick. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Who's one of your favorite survivors then? We'll amend the question. And then you can text Kylie when you think of the cutest one.
Oh my god. So who are my like favorite survivors?
Yeah, let's go there.
Okay.
And then if you think of your cutest, text Kylie.
Okay. Favorite, I feel like I really vibed with Ricard.
Okay.
Like recently,
Mm-hmm.
probably historically, it might have been like Ethan.
Yeah.
Oh, Ethan as cutest.
Okay.
That's
All right,
works.
there we go.
That's the one. Yeah.
And then if you could have swapped seasons with Garrett and played on Irariki, how do you think you would have done?
You know, Garrett and I think I found ourselves in similar-ish situations where we were kind of backed against the wall around the merge.
He did have an idol.
Yeah, but he
And
also
a fake one.
Yeah, but he's also able to successfully bluff one. I think I kind of played a discount Garrett game this round, so a little messy there. So I think I probably go out earlier.
Mm.
All right. Well, Lily?
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to throw in the last minute one based off of Kylie's question. If you could have thrown Garrett into Trinity Falls and replaced him with anybody on the cast, who would you have taken out and put him in with?
Okay.
He still goes on the tribes they go on, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I would probably all the love. I would replace Selkirk.
Interesting.
Because
But then now we have to change up all the tribes again because you guys can't start on the same tribe.
You know, that's not the fantasy.
Yeah.
But you know, there's
he goes in Lee's place.
If what?
I said in my head, best for your game, you take out Lee and you put in Garrett.
You know, my thing is that in my world, Selkirk and I don't bomb that third challenge.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what? And, you know, Selkirk, Garrett would have the materials for challenges 1 and 2, probably.
That is true. Yeah.
That is
Even
true.
though he did win.
But you know, honestly, I feel like Garrett would have had fun with this cast.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my final question is, if you can sum up your game in one word, what would it be and why?
I would say scrappy with an emphasis on the crappy.
Oh.
I like scrappy. I like
No,
scrappy.
No, but I mean scrappy.
Yeah.
I felt like I should have gone at the final 13, and then I was able to extend myself a couple of rounds because of all of the because one I made that play with Jon, won a couple of immunity challenges, and I feel like I did what I had to do for a couple of rounds when realistically I think I could have easily been just the victim of a swap screw.
Yeah, I mean, you made it to jury with really getting swap screwed, and not a lot of people. I couldn't do that, so I think hats off to you and your ability to navigate that.
And you eventually did get an idol.
You know, I did get an idol. I did get a real idol, like a physical idol, which in a game for no prize, I think makes me the winner.
You'll have to find out for other rewards in the season. So
Well, with that, thank you so much, Ben, for coming on today for the exit interview. Thank you, everyone who's watched this exit interview. Remember to press the like on the video, press subscribe, and press that bell for all notifications so you know when new content drops on our YouTube channel. as well as join all of our social media that you'll see at the end of this video. Join our Facebook, join our Instagram. That's where you can post questions for the exit interviews, get additional content such as secret scenes, and see what else and weird, crazy questions that we'd like to put on our Insta story as well. But with that, we are Dynamic Character Productions. We'll see you next time.